Okay, I see people still kind of sneaking in, but welcome to everyone. I am Lisa Swayze, and I am the general manager at Buffalo Street Books, and you are here for the session Income Beyond Selling Books. Buffalo Street Books is in Ithaca. It is a cooperatively owned independent bookstore since 2011, still hanging on. That should be the tagline. Hence why I thought about this idea for a session. So we'll just get started. I proposed this topic because as the manager of an independent bookstore, and not just any independent bookstore, but one that is cooperatively owned, it's become increasingly clear to me that the economics of book selling is nearly impossible. It's almost impossible to turn a profit selling books. I won't go into the whys of that here, since most of you as fellow booksellers already know about the low discounts and unfair competition we face. But I do want to highlight one area of concern. I mean, industry best practices tell us that we should be turning over our inventory every 3 months. That means a book gets 3 months to sell itself, prove itself, or be returned to the publisher if we expect to make a profit. And there's something that seems really wrong with an industry best practice that gives books and authors just 3 months to find their readers. So that's just one example of where I see issues that make it necessary for us to find ways to have the financial stability to work under some different, work with a better income stream. So that's just one of the issues that are difficult about sustaining an indie bookstore. But even as we grapple with that, how do we work around those issues? How do we give books a chance and turn a profit? Some stores get around this by not paying as high a wages. Understood why that happens. Some stores are able to turn a profit because they own their buildings. For some stores, owners have more personal finances to put into efforts to help the store, or won't take a salary themselves. But, you know, if we're talking about industry best practices, obviously we want to be able to pay our employees a living wage. We want to be able to offer their benefits, and we want to be able to not live in fear of going under every month. And even if you do have some of those things in place, like some financing that helps you get through, or not paying yourself as an owner, you still know that there are constant issues with keeping your bookstore afloat. So we wanted to talk about how are we doing that. One thing almost all of us are doing is selling sidelines. What my most recent thing I read from Abacus was that a successful indie bookstore needs to make 20% of their income selling something other than books. That's the best performing bookstores do that. That's 20%. I mean, that's a lot of not selling books, but it's a creative way that we've come up with to work around the difficult economics of book selling. At Seminary Co-op in Chicago, they've taken what may be the ultimate creative turn in solving the problem of bookstore economics. Manager Jeff Deutsch has said, the model we inherited from traditional retail no longer serves us. Seminary has chosen to become a nonprofit, building donations into their bottom line and claiming book selling as a social good. Deutsch says, the rapid pace of retail profitability is a ridiculous way to think about book selling. But here we are. This is where we are. Beyond selling sidelines and outside of Seminary's revolutionary solution, what can independent bookstores do in the here and now to improve our bottom line and ensure our store's sustainability? That's what this panel is asking. I'm going to share a few things we've come up with at Buffalo Street Books, and some of which have worked, some of which are meh, and some of which haven't worked out well at all. And we're going to then turn it over to Valerie Kohler at Blue Willow Bookshop in Houston about what she's been doing there. And then, I'm going to do that first, then I'll share. Then we're going to talk with all of you because we want to hear about some of the creative ways you found to improve your bottom line. So Valerie.
Well, thank you, Lisa. Thank you all for letting me in. I have a public service announcement today. If you have a password that goes to your main account that manages all your Gmail accounts, everything. Share that with somebody outside of your organization, maybe a family member, maybe somebody. We've been locked out since 6:30. I am logged in under my personal Gmail account, and it appears that I've never shared that password for the administration with anybody. So just letting you know, if you have an administration, if you're using Gmail and you have an administration password, as well as your own Gmail account, ours is hidden behind Blue Willow Bookshop. Share that password with somebody outside of your organization. So there you go. That's my public service announcement. Thank you so much for joining in, and hopefully we can answer some questions here. It's close to 26 years, and I've apparently never shared my password with anybody. I've 26 years at this, and we kind of did an organic start. Put a little bit of our own money into the bookstore. We've been very fortunate with our landlord. We don't own our building, and I do take a salary, but our biggest thing is that we set up our store as an S Corp, so we do take a dividend. So that's how I pay myself, is through the dividend. So some years more than others, but we have a lot of things that we've been doing. Some of them, as Lisa said, unsuccessfully, and some successfully. So, Lisa, I think that's what that's all I got for you guys. We just try to every day think of something different, a way to bring income into the store that may or may not be part of your walk-in customer, your regular customer, the one who puts the books on the counter and says, here, I'm going to pay you. So we are always thinking that, yes, 20% is about what we do in sidelines. And I would have to say, they all kind of connect to the bookstore. That's very important to me, that those sidelines connect. So that could be stationery, journals, greeting cards, games. We're big. We have half kids, half adults. So we have a lot of games. But yeah, I think 20 is about probably right, Lisa, for our sidelines. And that has been consistent for at least the last 15, if not 20 years. It stays right there in our abacus. It's always about 20% for non-book items, but nobody has just all books. And some of you, I've been in your bookstores, nobody has just all books. So I do want to point that out. And I think that's it, Lisa. So you want to talk about the idea of the co-op? I know that there are people on this call. Maybe you've set up a B corporation, something that's again a nonprofit, something like that. So talk about it.
Did you have any specific ideas of other things that you've done? Some of the ideas of things you've done?
Okay, so one of the things that we've done, and I'm hoping that other people will figure this out, early on was the beginning of the B2B, where a lot of people talked about B2B and how to develop that customer, which I had a hard time finding. But what we've done is we've developed that part of the business and gone after that. Not so much cold calling, but more if we have a situation where we do it and we do it well, and then we ask them to recommend us to other organizations, whether they are for-profit, nonprofit, just to continue every time to ask for a new way that we can help people in that situation. So that is an easy, if you get the order, that's an easy way to make that, because the B2B is relatively pain-free. One person can handle it. And we've developed it to the point to where some of our vendors know that we can do this, that we are willing to do it, and they send us the business.
Great. Maybe some other things will come up as we're talking that you can share too. So I'll share a little bit about some of the things Buffalo Street Books has tried. I'll start with saying, because we're cooperatively owned, I definitely, it's harder for me to take on like a big expensive project. In order to do that, I'd have to take it to our whole almost 1,000 member owners. And another thing that's built in for us is that we made a commitment from the very beginning that we were going to offer a living wage, and we're a certified living wage provider in our community. So those are some things that make it a little harder. We don't own our building, but on the upside, we do have fairly reasonable rent comparatively. So I think that works in our favor. And that's just to give you a sense of where I'm coming from with the experience and the ideas that I have. I've been with the bookstore about 5 years. And so we've tried a lot of different things and, really got to the point at this point now where I have a board, and my board is 100% on board, understanding just how tight those margins really are for bookstores, and really helping think creatively to do things that will be helpful. So I'll talk a little bit about some of that. Some of them are just partnerships. I mean, we all try to do that. Valerie mentioned B2B as a cooperative, AKA community owned. I think that our commitment to partnerships in our community is baked right into our mission. So we're extra involved in that way. So some of the standard best practices like B2B, working with local schools, stuff like that, we do that. But we've also worked extra close with some of our local organizations in ways that help boost our sales. So there is a local nonprofit that works with the school district to deliver books to the students that social workers have picked out as in the most need of literacy support, and give them a new book every month that's appropriate for their age level. And we work in very close partnership with them. We recommend books, we place the orders, we give them an extra discount. But in the process, we also, it does help our bottom line. With some other organizations, we have worked on a Stories in the Streets initiative that has put artwork, entire stories from different picture books throughout our community. My favorite we did was the ABCs of Black History, and it's placed strategically across from our community center on the fence of a public pool, just a few blocks from the bookstore. Community impact on that one is very high. A lot of people see it, and there are others throughout the community, and we get credit. So we get, that cred. Profit impact isn't as high on this one, but we know it does influence our bottom line. We've sold hundreds of copies of that book to partners in local schools. Those are just a couple of ideas that are maybe slightly off the beaten path from what people normally do in partnering.
And I think the most important thing, Lisa, is that you do have to toot your own horn every chance you get. Mm-hmm. Every time you do something that partners with somebody, make sure you are out there telling everybody whether it's through your newsletter, whether it's through your social media, whatever it is, make sure you're telling people this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because some of our best partnerships have come from, like I said before, somebody reaching out to me. I said, yes, we can help you with this. And then it goes from there. And then they tell somebody, and we help them, and then they tell somebody else. I know we're in a large metropolitan area, so we get a lot of people. We have lots of organizations here, tons and tons. But each time we make sure that we tell people, hey, we partnered with that group.
Right. Yeah. Another thing we created was what we call the Ithaca's Books Initiative, and it incorporates a lot of different things. It's just another way to promote literacy and books in our community, and hopefully bring people into the bookstore. So among the things we do, we choose ambassadors from teachers, librarians, authors, civic leaders, lots of people in our community have been our ambassadors, including our former mayor and lots of great people, and they each choose 5 books that have influenced them, and we highlight these in a section of the store forever. So they're connecting to them connects us to the people that are in their network. So definite community impact there. I think profit impact is low to medium. It's not a huge project. We also don't have to put a lot of money into it. 90% of the effort is undertaken by Ithaca College writing interns. So it's a good idea. It's not groundbreaking, but I think it's interesting, and you can think about ways you can use that in your community. And in the last 2 years, we've also started the Ithaca's Books Festival. This is our second year. It's actually happening this week. It starts Wednesday. Among the people who are going to, authors who are going to be here is fellow bookseller Amanda Quain. So we're excited about that. We're in some of the activities, we're doing a book fair for grownups, and we're handling it a little differently. We are going to have that theme of we'll have drinks and snacks for people while they're browsing. But in addition to that, we've invited other people from the community in. So another indie bookstore that is local is going to have a table in the book fair for grownups, a couple of local presses, the Cornell University Press, a couple of zine makers, so that we invite them in to share our resources as well. We're also doing a big kids day on Saturday this year, and we're partnering with the local nonprofit Children's Reading Connection. And by working with them, that also opens us up to some grants, and we were able to schedule it in a particular spot in DeWitt Park that usually is only let out for nonprofit events. So some of that is building, and I'm hopeful that it will continue to grow. Profit at this point, I think it does profit, but it also, can you see my under my eyes? It's tiring, and it hasn't even started yet. So we'll see. I do have a couple more that are a little easier. One idea came from my board chair, Amy Reading, who thought, what about used books? And I was like, no, I do not want to start another whole project. It's a whole different learning curve. I have to understand where to buy them. I have to understand how to value them. No. But she came up with this idea of having board members and among our owners donate gently used books. And so they donate to the bookstore, so there's no charge. We put them on one big shelf. They're all the same price, whether they're hardcover, whether they're a gift book, whether they're a book, they're all $6. So the profit is very high. There's not a huge section of them, but it's no to little cost, and it's easy dollars. And that, I think, has some merit that could be useful for other people. And since then, we've also been in negotiating with our local reuse, and they have so many books that they can't even get them out on their shelves. They don't have enough staff to sort them. So we're in conversations with, well, can we come in and help as volunteers, take some of those books, be able to make some profit off of them? And they're also staying in the community instead of they've had to ship them out on huge pallet trucks at the end of the year. So that could be a really lucrative way to add to that. Let me see, just a couple other things. We've followed the lead of some restaurants that especially really changed up their methods of thinking about this. So on our square, when you check out, you're asked if you would like to add a percentage of it as a donation to the bookstore. It's really small. It's like 2, 5, 10%. So on a small sale, it's very little money. And some people really will choose 10. I've had people say, why can't I do even more? It's pretty easy. And we find that 99% of customers happily want to do it because they've heard, and we literally say, indie bookstores have a hard time making it. We're cooperative. We want your support. You do not have to do this, but it's an opportunity if you would like to. So that's an idea. We also tried doing more workshops as opposed to straight up author events. It was a lot of fun. We had some bookmaking workshops, a theater workshop, a few really great things along with writing workshops. But it was, as a profit impact, it was really low. Not a lot of people signed up. We think because there's just a lot of competition in the Ithaca market for people who are actually doing this for as nonprofit, where you don't have to pay anything to go to stuff like this. But we loved it. It was a lot of fun. So we're kind of keeping it in the back of our mind as something we could expand on with some effort at some point. And then something that a lot of people have already done, but I think we've come up with a creative way to do it. A lot of bookstores, this was already mentioned, have an associated coffee shop or even a beer on tap or wine room or whatever. And as a cooperatively owned store, I never had the knowledge, like you need someone who knows what they're doing about those things to really create another side business, and or the resources to just up and up say, we're going to invest, X $1,000 in doing this. But we've found a partner in the community from a group that's already set up one mini coffee bar in the front of a retail store. And we are going to create, they want to branch out and do some tea branding and design a tea room for us. So we will be, hopefully, as we enter 2023, we will also be looking to add to our bottom line through having tea on offer, like really good teas, chai, and we'll be able to do steam milk and make fancy drinks. And we'll see. But that, I think, is probably going to be the thing that should have the most impact on a profit, because the profit on beverages is much higher than it is on books. So stay tuned to see how that goes. So that's some of the ideas that we've got.
Yeah. And someone asked about B2B, and I see that Ada, that you're there. So happy you're here, Houston girl. So yes, so we definitely do a lot of B2B. Sorry about the dog. But so that was purely organic, and it just slowly but surely. And I think the big key here is, if you have one opportunity, do it really well. Make it as easy as possible for whoever you're doing that for. Whether it is a corporation, whether it is a nonprofit, whoever you're doing it for, just make sure you dot everything and make it as easy as possible for them. Because I think that's where we've gotten the next order and the next order and the next order. So, and it takes time, yes, but I do think that you need to do it well. You need to pay attention to all the details and make sure you do it well.
Mary Alice, I see you have your hand raised. Did you have a question or a thought?
Oh, it's Meg. Sorry, Meg.
Oh, it said Mary Alice had her hand. It said in that. I don't know.
Oh.
Okay, yay, hi.
Oh, I didn't see that. Sorry. I thought it was funny because I have Alice in my store name. Valerie, I'm just wondering, I'm a new bookstore, so I've only been in business for a year. Like specific examples, your B2Bs are schools, doctors' offices, an accounting firm. Like who are the people you are doing B2B?
Just know that these are everybody. It's all different. So every publisher has a different way of doing B2B. A few of the bigs, and I can't remember right now off the top of my head, you can't be selling to a school as a B2B unless they're giving the books away, clearly. And we've done that. We have done corporations. We have a hospital here in D. Anderson. We inherited that actually from a bookstore that closed. We inherited their B2B. And because we have done it for a long time, we have good relationships with the publishers, and they know that we are going to execute it the way they want it executed. So a lot of them actually come as a reference from the publisher, B2B people, who tell them, yes, this bookstore knows how to do it. They know how to handle it. Just, give it to them. So I think the big thing is that as you develop relationships, Meg, with the publishers, make it known that you're willing to do this. You're willing to make this extra step for them. And I think they're looking for people to do it and do it correctly. But you need to make it known to them. And that's not going to happen if you don't have that relationship with the publisher. And I see Ada's posting some good B2B partners. And I don't think you have to be in a big town to do it, because a lot of this is all handled in the email and all that. If you can get in your email, all that's handled, not off-site, if you will, and it can be done,
I see.
but not
Kristen-
cold calling. Yes,
think
Lisa.
Kristen has her hand raised.
Hi, just to follow up on what Valerie was saying, I think I would also like to point out that if you don't have your programs put together properly, your accounting side put together properly, if you well, not accidentally, but if all of a sudden you have B2B clients that you've never had before, and you get one that possibly orders a lot, you can get in trouble on the credit side. All of a sudden you have, $27,000 worth of books that you need to order, and that organization doesn't pay you within 30 days. How are you keeping up on your end of the bargain? Especially with Penguin Random House being so large and under one accounting side, we really have to be careful about that. I've gotten stuck 2 or 3 times in the last 6 months because of that. So just an FYI, be careful what you wish for.
And we have to make that clear. If you are going to be doing that, you need to make it clear to your partnering organization. I had one of those phone calls this morning in that they wanted, it's a whole long story, but I'm like, that's a huge business. And are we going to get paid on time in the time frame that it is for us to pay our bills to the publishers? So that's another thing. I have found that there are people there are publicists that want us to work with organizations. A lot of it has to do with selling the books, because we are a reporting store to New York Times and to Bookscan, and they want us to do it so that we can report those sales. But yeah, you do have to, Kirsten, you do have to make sure that whoever the organization you're dealing with is also paying their bills.
I'll just jump in to say there's a little bit of a sidebar thing going on with what you say if you want to ask for tips on Square. And as Candace from Tubby and Coos is saying, literally theirs just says, add tip, and people choose to. Ours says something a little more direct, because as a cooperative, independent, owned by our community, we feel more comfortable with asking for donations, I think, than a lot of bookstores do. But I think the key message here is that people who love their indie bookstores really love their indie bookstores and want that value to stay in their town. So it might be worth thinking about if you think you can pull it off. So are there any other questions? Or if not questions, we'd love to hear creative ways other people have been working to try to provide more sustainable profits. Candace, you must have some.
I do. I have a bunch. I'm sorry, my camera isn't on. I am not looking great today, and I'm sitting in front of a window, but you can hear my voice. Yeah, I think I was talking about enabling tips as well. We use Square as well. So just enabling tips. I also on my website, I have, we're a nerd bookstore. So for those who don't know, we're all genre fiction and a lot of science fiction and fantasy. So we take from a lot of sci-fi fantasy things. So one of the things was on my website, and in different things, it says toss a coin to your bookstore, which is a Witcher reference. If you watch The Witcher, toss a coin to your Witcher. And so we say, just like, toss us a coin. And people seem to like that. So we have a section on our website that if people just want to toss us a coin, they can. And on invoices and at checkout, we have tips. And typically, if I normally don't even say anything, but if I do say something, it is, do you want to leave us a tip? Like, oh, do you like the recommendations we give you and stuff? Like, leave us a tip. But most of the time I don't say anything. Some other things that I've done is that we have moved mostly to virtual events. So for all of our virtual events, we also enable donations. I know a lot of stores have done that as well. And so if it's not a ticketed event, of course, then we just say like, donate to us to help sustain our events program. And a lot of people will toss $5 or $10 just to watch the event online, even if they don't buy the book. And sometimes $10 is more profit than I would make selling a book anyway. So that has worked out really well. And I sell a ton of board games. That's a big sideline that I've brought in. And the other thing that I do is I rent out board games, which is something that stores could look at. So I had a huge board game collection personally. And I was like, I don't have anywhere to put all these games. What do I do with this? I'm just going to bring them to the store and let other people play them. So I have like a whole wall essentially of hundreds of games. And I do $10 for 10 days for one game. And people pay the rental fee. They can take the game out. A lot of games are $50+ and people just don't want to pay that necessarily for a board game. So it is also increased access to games for people who may not be able to afford to buy it. And also if they're having a party or a kid is having a sleepover or whatever, like lots of people will just come and rent 5 or 6 games. And that was easy for me because I already had a ton of games. I know not everyone's going to be in that situation, but board game rentals are good to do as well. Those are some of the things that I could think of. I am also pretty much a one-person show. So the tips just go into my bookstore account. And I just use it for whatever, rent mostly.
How about anyone else? You know, we know you're creative folks. We've seen how all of you pivoted. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Lisa. One of the things that came out of the pandemic that we're still in was home delivery. We hadn't done much home delivery prior to the pandemic, but during the pandemic, we did tons of home delivery. I discovered neighborhoods that I didn't even know existed. And we did it for free. And the pivot was we started charging for home delivery. And without a ripple, we're still doing lots of deliveries and people are happily paying for them. We don't charge a lot, but it's something, pays for the gas.
I mean, this is the thing, an idea may seem small, but with margins as tight as they are and the, most profit, like I think the figure the last time I heard, so don't quote me, is that, some of the best performing bookstores are maybe turning 2% profit. Like that's like a good expectation if you're doing okay. There's not, so a small amount can make a big difference when your percentages are already that tight.
And someone has just posted about subscriptions with home delivery. And back in Orlando, gosh, how many years ago that was at Children's Institute. I've been trying to do a subscription program since I started, but I couldn't figure it out. And all these people that have first editions and all that stuff. And I'm like, wow, I wish I could do that. We came up with what we call celebration boxes, and it is a home subscription. It's strictly for children. We have baby's first year. You can go on our website, bluewillowbookshop.com. It goes all the way. Now it's past 4 years, but it is an easy way to, first of all, bring in some money and then send out the books. And we get, I can't tell you, I don't even know how many subscriptions we have now, but it's easy because you've already picked the books. You don't have to rely on first editions. And I have told this to everybody, you're not stealing my thunder if you guys start one in your own community. We send them all throughout the United States, but they originate with our customers. They originate with people who live in our geographic area, even if we ship them out. So feel free to look on our website or ask me questions about that. It's called Celebrations. It's awesome.
Julia raised your hand.
I did. How are you guys?
Hi.
Pop-ups within my store have actually been helpful. That is something that I partner with a business next door to us, because even though we're in historic downtown, traffic down here is light right now, because there are not a lot of businesses. So pop-ups he does pop-ups and food trucks is actually a good, if you have the space and capability to do a food truck. Sometimes for us, food trucks are free because of course the thing, if you don't have a lot of traffic, is food trucks want a certain amount of traffic. So if you offer them the space free, and if you have where you sell drinks, and make sure they don't bring drinks, that'll bring traffic to your store. And you can that additional traffic comes in, but pop-ups inside the store have been helpful. It's not a lot, but it's definitely a nice addition.
Mhm. It's a good one. Can you give us some examples of the kind of other businesses that have popped up?
Yeah, we actually do. So of course, local authors. Anytime, that's actually my go-to for local authors that I know I'm not going to put on my shelf
Mhm.
at all. I will have twice a year I've done so far, where I have a local author event. So then they'll get a table space.
Mhm.
And I usually do that in the summer, so I can expand on that, because that's going to be something that I'm not going to carry in my store. We also have kid pop-ups, so kid entrepreneurs. We also have, and that's always a fun one because that draws lots of traffic. Girl Scout cookies, although of course we don't charge them for the space, draws a huge amount of traffic for us. So that's a pop-up. That's always a great one and no expense for you. Candles are a good one. I limit my I actually have 2 custom candles here. So if you have candles in your store, that's actually another fun way, because book lovers love candles. I'm working on trying to get her to do an actual candle making workshop. So that would be fun. So stuff that's fun in your community. We also have, I have a local bartender. Our bartender, we're right across from the amphitheater. So our book club comes with a bartender because she's a book club member. So
That's great.
kind of fun. So as she's making new drinks, we test out drinks, but then that's also, I can give her an option to sell drinks there, because she has the liquor license. So that's also another avenue, because of course, book club members are now hooked on her drinks. So, again, small little pop-ups. I know the gentleman next door to me, he only charges probably $35 for a pop-up space, and it's literally like a table space. And that, again, generates income, generates a different traffic to your store who may not know. Local vendors, always local vendors are huge for us, because people will want to support local. So if you can get a local candle maker or a local honey or whatever that looks like, that's definitely another helpful piece and goes with the supporting local.
Very cool.
I love all the suggestions, Lexi and Ada. You kind of have to get out of your box. You have to get out of that back room. You got to get out from behind that counter and talk to people and get out there and meet them, and just keep putting yourself out there. And I do a lot of book talks to book clubs and women's groups and stuff like that. That has built up over time. Those are always good. And I always put it out there that, hey, if you need me to come speak, and I don't charge a fee to speak, but I'm going to sell books to you. I think we just keep needing to find those people in our community who are willing to work with us, and build those relationships.
Anybody else have another question or an idea? I see Meg from Alice Ever After put in the chat that they have local art teachers set up their art exhibits at the store. And then when families come in for a gallery opening night, and that brings in some traffic and generates some interest. Yeah. The answer to the Girl Scout cookie question is you don't get part of the Girl Scouts money. They just generate some foot traffic for you.
Yeah.
And some cred, because people are happy that you're doing it. That's the other thing. I mean, a lot of the stuff that you might do with local nonprofits, it's connecting to those parts of your community, and that gives you some street cred. I mean, that's a funny way to say it. But, and especially if you can bring them in, like we've got a lot of nonprofits and local organizations involved with the book festival this weekend. And that means that they're publicizing the event to all of the people that are in their wheelhouses. So it just means we have even more people in the community aware of what's going on and possibly coming in to spend some dollars on books, we hope.
Bill?
Yeah, Lisa. So there is a writers group that we partner with, and they're in another community. They're 45 minutes away. They're in Syracuse, and this is the downtown writers at the YMCA in Syracuse, and it's a very well-established writing group. A great work coming out, and they recently approached us and asked if we would sponsor a program that they called Poetry in Flight. And they had approached our airport and one of the airlines and asked if they could exhibit the poetry from this poetry contest that they conducted at the airport for a year. And for the whopping expense of $100 worth of gift cards, we are now featured along with all of the poetry, each panel, as one of the sponsors. And it's great visibility for us in an important market to us.
Love that. I'm a little jealous of that.
Yeah. An ATM. Aaron? I don't have an ATM machine, sorry. But it's a good idea.
It was kind of an
If it
interesting
works.
thing. Like the reason that it even came up is because we've got multiple cash only businesses in town, and there's literally no ATM within town limits.
Mm-mm.
Aaron, it seems to me like it's going the other way.
Wouldn't you think? Yeah, but
We don't get any cash anymore.
well, and that's the funny thing is like the reason that they came to us is because the business that's spearheading it is a snowball stand, and it would be entirely too easy to hook a tow truck up to the entire snowball stand and take it away if there's an ATM attached to it, where we have like a secure indoor space for it. So I don't know. Seemed like a random but interesting option.
We'll stay tuned to see what you figure out.
Yeah.
Ada Fitzgerald has her hand raised.
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, it's Ada. I'm in North Carolina. I've been putting some ideas in the chats, but
Yeah.
another one that we do on our downtown, in our downtown area with other businesses is in November, we have a cookie crawl, and I don't handle the signups and money. Our downtown business develop, the person who works for our town who does business development handles that. But you buy a ticket for $25. The money goes to a nonprofit in town that does a lot of community sport. But everybody picks up, a little card, and it has all the participating businesses, and each business has a really fun cookie, and they carry their bag around and go around and pick up all their cookies. It's in this sort of like warm up to the holidays. And we get the nonprofit puts the word out big time, and we get tons of people who come in, lots of kids, and they all buy stuff. And it's pretty incredible because they're on this, very mission driven walk around town. So that has been a really successful campaign for a lot of folks, and it really does make a good amount of money for the nonprofit as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that also brings up a point that I would also emphasize. Being involved with your local, if you have a downtown organization, if your chamber, whatever, you can have a voice in helping create projects like that that would generate business for everyone in your community and making sure you're aware of them. So that's a no-brainer tip that everyone should try to stay connected to those resources. I see Julia has their hand raised.
I do. One other thing too, a gumball machine. I actually have a gumball machine, and although most of my stuff I don't charge for, you can actually, of course, tweak your machine to either do a quarter or free. We use it for like our reading challenge. You could actually charge a quarter for maybe some staff picks. Get some, write down in your capsule 3 or 4 book choices. Just find a way for something creative that'll get people to want to spend a quarter to find out what's in the machine. I used it for our Candyland theme game, where for every $5 you spent, that's where our cards were, in the gumball machine. So using a gumball machine is again, it's not a huge money maker, but of course everybody likes a gumball machine. So and they're not expensive. So that's another way if you have something like that or could create something like that.
Love that.
Can I jump in really quick and ask Julia to talk briefly about the Candyland?
Sure.
That was
actually
profitable.
Yes, very profitable.
Okay.
Where I'm going to do that yearly. I wanted to do something for the summer because traffic always over here for the summer, as we know, kids are out of school, so it's not a lot. We turned our floor into Candyland. So you were like a live Candyland. It was a live Candyland game. I did reach out and created a sponsorship package. So I got a sponsor who actually covered the cost of putting down the floor. So my cost was probably less than $100 for the event. And that was just for marketing material. But for every $5 you spent, you got a turn on the board. So just like moving across Candyland, make it through the board by the end of the month. And you were in a drawing for $100 gift certificate or 4 tickets to Candytopia, both again sponsored items. So my sponsor actually sponsored the gift certificate, and Candytopia sponsored the prize. So we had people who don't generally come in they come in once a month, were coming in a lot because they were trying to make it through the board in order to get through the drawing. So they kept coming back. You had people, adults who, which was weird to me, never played Candyland, and had so much fun. Like I had a customer who was like, oh my gosh, I'm almost at the end. And I was like, oh, maybe next time, because you still got 2 weeks. No, we're going to do this now. And he actually spent money to donate books to kids, because I have a box where I donate books to kids. So he spent more money that way. I had tons and tons of customers coming in, and we also mirrored the floor onto our monitor, because I don't know if you can see my monitors in back by the register. So we mimicked so customers could see where they were. So you didn't have to remember where you were in the game, but you can only see where you were, but where other customers were. So that competitive size caused people to keep coming in. And they were, the biggest thing we got from that was the community loved the community interaction. So they loved to see the stuff on social media. They loved to see, because we were posting like us doing the floor, and all I used was removable vinyl on some of the green carpet stuff. So that was kind of fun, just making it whatever is easier for you. So we are actually we're planning another interactive game, because again, it's not, once the first one's down, it's pretty much easy. And once you start that first of the month, it's no brainer. It's not a lot of activity. You got an event running for the month, kind of like the Where's Waldo, but you're getting a whole lot of people coming in because it's that interactive piece. So I'll be more than happy if anybody wants to email me or call me to tell you how we did it, because it's definitely, the sponsor is actually already on board for next year. We're already planning on how to actually enhance and make it even better. We did have a virtual component. The sponsor did a virtual bingo card for me, so someone could play virtually. So that was definitely not something that was very costly, but drew in a lot of repeat customers for the month.
Can I mention something? Because I don't know how to raise my hand. Okay, something that has produced money for us you mentioned the gumball machine. We have a gumball machine and we have it outside and whatever. But what really has created an income is the cat treat dispenser. We have 3 cats who live at the store, and they know the difference between the cat treat machine and the gumball. And believe me, they don't do anything with the gumball, but they will actually eat out of a person's hand if they get the treats. So that's very little expense. Cat people love them, cats love them. And
But how fat are your cats?
they have a little bit more on them than they should. I mean, why not? It's low end. I mean, it didn't cost much, and you get treats. And the kids love to put their quarter in and turn the thing so that they can give the kitty cats some.
I like the mention in the chat that we should have one for feeding the booksellers.
Yeah, that's right. But we also foster kittens with the
That's a cute idea.
Animal shelter.
Yeah.
And that has, again, there's money. I mean, you got to have expenses, but we get a lot of people who come.
Sure. Love that.
At the cats and the kittens.
Kristen, do you have your hand raised again? Would you like to say something? Yay. Okay.
I do. First of all, I have to say cat treats, it's brilliant. Like I literally have a gumball machine that I haven't used because of COVID and not knowing how to order the little things that go in it and blah, blah, blah. But I have 2 huge cats and everybody comes for them. So I think one of our booksellers is on this and I'm like, Jamie, we need to have a cat treat machine. Like as of tomorrow. That's brilliant. So thank you. What I was going to say is on a scope of kind of setting yourself up for success. I don't know how many people are kind of like earlier booksellers or new stores. We've been in business for about 9 years now. And one of the things that has kind of saved us from a annual perspective is really choosing what special things should be identified in dead zones. We opened in December 1st of 2013, but we celebrate our grand opening on February 1st because we're dead. So we can have a big party then. And it doesn't sound like much, but I'm pretty sure that and some of our B2B customers is the only reason we're in business right now, because you can't tap your own audience that may be pretty small like ours too often. So you can't layer too many things too close together. So that's my 2 cents. And cat treats, love it.
Erin?
We have an Amazon swear jar. So it's like the first thing you see when you come into the store. And basically the idea is, if somebody says the word Amazon, we go up, I'm gotta put money in the jar. And it's funny because most people who put money in the jar are the ones who do not say the word, but they know exactly what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So in our old location, we actually also used to foster cats, and we can't anymore because of where we moved to. So now it goes to support various local nonprofits and things like that. And it actually specifically says on the jar, the money in this jar will go to support small nonprofits that Amazon doesn't care about as much as they care about their bottom line or something to that effect. And it's just like, it doesn't make a ton of money, but it's like such a good conversation starter. And we have it set up with the how to resist Amazon and why book.
I was going to say you need Danny's book right next to it. Yep.
Yeah, we do, and the book has increased donations to the jar, and the jar has increased sales of the book. So,
Erin, I'm sorry.
It's a small thing, but it's fun.
It's more than a small thing though, too, because not only are they talking about it with you, they're talking about it when they go home. And I mean, we can all support each other all we want, but we know we need as an industry not to be asking for tips as a bookseller. We need people to buy books and pay us fairly. So I just love I just visited Aaron's bookstore a couple weeks ago and I was like, this Amazon swear jar is the bomb. It's everybody, we should all have it and then just give little cred to Aaron.
Yeah, and Evan Schwartz was saying they thought they invented it. What's your bookstore, Evan?
Open Book Bookstore outside of Philadelphia.
There you go. So
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we didn't invent it, but we've been doing it for a while. And I know last year, like I have it set to all the donations go to Bink, and whatever we collect by the end of the year, I match that.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Candace, are you still on? I don't see.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Well, I was just thinking as we got talking about Amazon that maybe you wanted to share your recent rant
My recent rant.
on about
My
about
viral
the New
tweet.
Yorker.
My viral tweet.
Yeah.
The New Yorker, which they have since corrected, but the New Yorker put out an article really recently about how we really need bookstores because of the experience of bookstores, which was great. And then every single book recommendation in there was linked to Amazon. So I put out a tweet. I was like, the New Yorker really wrote this article and then linked every book to Amazon, WTF. And the tweet went super, like it's still going. I'm up to like 40,000 something on the tweet. And then earlier today, they took all the links out. So I'd like to think my tweet was partially responsible for that. Now there's no links. There's no links at all. I wish they would have changed it to Bookshop or something, but there are no links at all. But that's better than nothing. Nothing is better than what they had. You know what I mean?
Right. It's better. It's progress. But yeah, it's not that hard. You're journalists. You could research where people could spend their money. All right. I know we're getting really close to the end. Is anybody still wanting to share something? I can't always tell. Aaron, did you raise your hand again, or is that still up? Okay. He's down now. Well, thanks everybody. I think this has been a lot of fun. I wasn't sure how much people would share, but there's a lot of good stuff. There's some more stuff in the chat. So if you haven't been able to look over there, do that so you can get some more ideas. And thanks for coming. And thanks to Eileen and Nikki and Neba and Siba for organizing New Voices, New Rooms. And hopefully we'll see each other in person next year.